The final part of this fully makes me believe there was life on Mars at one point in time. There still may be life on Mars. Just for shiggles, I threw up the pyramid that's on Mars. And if you'll remember correctly, our remote viewer back in part 1 said that he saw pyramids. He went inside some pyramids, found some giants, met up with the giants, and this is what he found out. So these giants that are dressed in all silk, they are waiting for a group or a party that left to go find a new place to live. Now, the sub or remote viewer says that he gets all of these visions of corruption of their environment. It's falling apart very rapidly, and they're looking for another place to live. So the monitor, aka the CIA, asks him, well, what caused all these disturbances? Like, what's going on in their environment? Right here, he starts tripping about what he saw, and the monitor's like, just give it to me straight. And the sub says, I get a globe. It's a globe that goes through a comet's tail. It's all through a river or something. It's very cosmic. It's like space pictures. So the CIA tells the sub to go up to this person and tell him who you are and ask if there's any way you can help him at all. And the sub is like, all I get is the perception is that he's just waiting. He doesn't even know who I am. He thinks I'm a hallucination because he's so close to death. So the monitor is like, all right, well, these people that left them there, the ones they're waiting on, how did they dip out? And the sub gets an impression of, he doesn't know exactly what it is, but it looks like the inside of a larger boat, very rounded walls and shiny metal. That sounds like a damn spaceship to me. Tell him to hop up in this spaceship. Go along with them. We love that journey for you. So where he goes is an impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes, gas pockets, and strange planets, and very volatile. Again, if this does not prove to you there was at one point life on Mars, and there still might be, I don't know what will. What if Mars used to be like Earth, and then there was a natural disaster or something bad happened, and now it's uninhabitable? Anyways, in 2011, the Curiosity rover was on Mars, took these pictures, and I'm sorry, but that looks like a face. Those look like pyramids. That looks like a little community over there. And then that looks like a face. Hear me out. Back in 1984, the CIA did a remote viewing of Mars, and this is what they found. Pay attention to the very first paragraph and the very last paragraph. I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large. And then in the first paragraph, he talks about how they're kind of like a shadow of them. It's not really there because he's viewing them in the past, so that makes a lot of sense. But okay. How did he know in 1984 that there was a giant face on the surface of Mars? He couldn't have unless he actually saw it. And then the monitor asked him about the pyramids. And he says, yeah, they're freaking huge. They have an inside and outside. It's like shelter from storms or something. And then he goes inside the pyramids, and let me tell you, it just gets wild. This document makes me think that the CIA went to an underground military base where they were reverse engineering alien aircraft. Let's get into it. Now, if you want to pause to read the entire document, go for it, but I want to point out a few things to you on each page. The first thing being, right over here, it says T0940-1058. Those are coordinates, and we're going to get into where the coordinates take us to, but let's go through what our remote viewers saw first, okay? On this first page, he's talking about how it's definitely a government-controlled facility. It's a very sterile facility, and at least a portion of this area is closed in by Earth, so underground. Now, right here, he says there's a great deal of manipulation of objects, exchanging items, replacing things, testing, storage. The next thing I want to point out to you is he says the activity deals with high energy or potentially high energy. These are the impression of scientific research with strong government intent. And then he goes on to mention that he gets the impression that the failures have far outweighed the successes, and there's a particular concept of a rebound effect going on with these. It says right here, portions of the site are very dark and shadowy, and there are large areas of Earth that have been humanly manipulated. At least a portion of the site is. Closed in gives one the impression of having rock or soil overhead on one side with a wide open expanse on the other side. There is a sense of controlled movement within this latter area. And then he goes on to describe basically shipping containers that are backed up end to end, and they go in this large circular movement as they spiral down into this large circular hole. Now, whatever is connecting these storage containers is underground and out of view inside of this hole, so our remote viewer moves on down into the hole. As he moves down into the hole, he sees flashes of blue from these containers. So flashes of blue from these high energy vehicles or weapons or whatever they're working on down there. Once he gets down into the hole, he sees a passageway leading off to a second larger hole. So he moves on down there. Once he's into that hole, he sees a larger circle, which inside of it sits several monuments. He sees a large parallel curved object that comes to a point at the end. Now, once he gets deeper in this hole, he sees many more objects. The first is a tall four-sided object with a pointed four-side apex that extends upward from the series of square-shaped steps or levels, so some type of like platform with this object on top of it. And coming out of the top of this object is some type of blue beam, some type of energy coming out the top of it. While he's in this particular area, he feels frightened, he feels uneasy, he's ready to move on. The second feature is several large slanted tubes with fog coming out of the ends, and as the fog comes out of the end, it drops down into a lower level. Now he notices that these tubes are sitting on something that appears to be solid, but is hollow on the inside, some like transfer through these tubes, right? He sees a third smaller area that appears to be like a storage area. He says it appears to be the final step in the process. And then a fourth area of festivity where people are excited and yelling good. I don't know, it kind of sounds like a bar or a pub to me underground, so I'm not really sure what that all is about. Now, this is how he describes the outside of this area. This is the overhead view. So you're looking at like a solid rock formation, but it's hollow on the inside. And then it has a entrance down into hollow earth. And go ahead and pause to read if you want to look at all the notes. These are all the shipping containers that he saw backed up one to another, circling down into this hole. Remember that creepy object that we talked about that had the 4 points and energy coming out of the top of it sitting on a platform? This is the drawing of it. This is what he saw. And these are the tubes with the fog coming out. See how the fog is dropping down into a lower area? And you can see right here, this area is lower and out of sight. Now, this is the area that the pipes were sitting on. You can see it's thick, but there's also a hollow chamber inside of it and a passageway at the bottom. Assuming this is as he enters the dark hole where all the storage units circle down into. So this is just the dark, hollow area as he moves farther down. And this is one of the many monuments that he saw as he moved farther and farther down underground. Now, when you go to Google Earth and you put in those coordinates that we were talking about in the very beginning, it takes you to Nigeria. And here's a fun fact. Africa has the least amount of alien sightings anywhere in the world. Is that because they have secret access and underground tunnels to and from Africa, so we're never going to see them there? On April 27th, 1973, the CIA is conducting a telephone interview with Ingo Swann and Harold Sherman regarding their remote viewing of the planet Jupiter. Now, if you don't know what remote viewing is, it's basically astral projection, where these people can put themselves wherever they want in space and time and view remote locations. The beginning of the document is mainly just niceties and introductions to each other. It's when we get down to the very bottom where it says, "I have written," is when we get into the description of Jupiter and everything that he did. So pause to read the entire last paragraph, but basically this is where he's taking his consciousness and projecting it to the planet Jupiter, and he's describing what he's seeing. You can see down there at the bottom, giving off a golden glow with crystal-like diamond sparkles and an unbelievable inner sight. I am still some distance from Jupiter, which I can see to the right, far, 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 a million, I can't tell, perhaps more, miles away. Don't worry, I'll get out of your way so you can pause to read the entire document. But up top, here's one thing I want to point out. He says, "These visions are inside me, then outside. There is a yellow cast to space and seemingly dark objects show through it. Can there be other rooms of constructing color or densities? Is that a clue to the multiverse?" As I am being shown many asteroids or very dark planets between Mars and Jupiter, some with life forms lesser or equivalent to ours. I was given the feeling that they were great gaseous areas swirling vortexes of increasing velocity. Hold on, there's more. That these are new worlds in formation and that intelligence or disrupting forms inconceivable to us is behind this innocent act of creation. Go ahead and pause to read the entire bottom paragraph if you would like. But at the very bottom, you can see where he says, "I don't know how close Pioneer 10 is going to come to Jupiter in its bypass, but it looks like it will encounter powerful magnetic forces." This top paragraph is all about Harold's experience in this remote viewing session of Jupiter. And it just talks about how he felt, what he saw, and then how he's coming back to reality. He's exhausted all of a sudden. He can hear his wife is calling to him, that Ingo is on the phone for him. And then it's just a brief conversation between him and the CIA before we get into Ingo Swann's remote viewing session. Now keep in mind, Ingo Swann is the best at remote viewing. Hands down, the legend. We'll get into that next.
I think I done fucked around and found out a little bit too much. These are CIA documents. What is this? These are sketches of what the aliens are supposed to look like. Straight from the desk of the CIA. Hold on, I'll show you more. I'm not even sure what I have stumbled across, but I have found a whole treasure trove of documents just like this. And what they are remote viewing session notes. In my last video, I talk about it if you want to go back and look, but this is remote viewing. See, it says remote viewer, MR, interviewer, ED, and it's just a bunch of notes about what they saw during their sessions. Like, let me show you one more. This is supposedly the location of another alien base in South America. Now, throughout these documents, there are coordinates. Cannot figure out where they lead to because they don't have northwest, southeast. They don't have any directionals. They just have numbers and then little squiggles. So I'm working my way through what the code is. But yeah, I'm getting deep, y'all. Have you ever heard of Project Grill Flame? Yeah, I hadn't either until I found these CIA documents. Basically, what they were doing is the U.S. Army and the CIA were investigating remote viewing and psychokinesis. Now, if you don't know what remote viewing is, it's basically where someone can close their eyes and put themselves somewhere else, astral project themselves, and tell you everything they're seeing. Now, this is the first page of the document, and you can see at the very top that it's for the Assistant Secretary of the Army in Research and Development to see whether or not they should keep on. And then in this document, they break down exactly what Project Grill Flame is, what they did, and all their findings. Remote viewing is a real phenomenon. Remote viewing ability can be improved by appropriate training procedures. Remote viewing has potential for U.S. intelligence applications. However, at this stage of development, descriptive content, sketches, configurations is more reliable than analytic content. And then it just goes on to say a potential threat to the U.S. national security exists from foreign adversaries if we don't get a hold of this first. Right there at the very bottom, there were several key recommendations that resulted from this 3-year Grill Flame effort. The very first one, basic research in both remote viewing and psychokinesis phenomena should be initiated. So they wanted to keep researching this. They were not done. Remote viewing is real, guys. Oh, motherfucker, does it reveal some secrets. Okay. Off top, let me tell you, it's an assessment of the Gateway process. It's to the commander of the U.S. Army in 1983. Gateway process encompassed a ton of things from remote viewing all the way to psychokinesis, all the way to astral projecting, all the way to figuring out how time and space works. Let me fucking show you some things. This is how the CIA breaks down our consciousness. They have a left hemisphere for it and a right hemisphere for it. Each of them acts differently, and they have techniques that will activate each side of them at the right time to get your brain to do what they want it to do. I beg of you to pause and read number 14, The Consciousness Matrix. This quote right here sums it up pretty good. Contrary to what everyone knows is so, it may not be the brain that produces consciousness, but rather consciousness that creates the appearance of a brain. What the fuck? Scientists that work for the CIA drew this diagram of our universe and how time and space evolve and work. Here's the gag. See the shaded in areas where it says point of where flow of time? That's the part where when you astral project, that's the part of time that you slip into. Right there in those shadows of time and space. Wild. And this is just... I can't. Now look at this. Let's look at letter J together. Be intellectually prepared to react to possible encounters with intelligent, non-corporeal energy forms when time-space boundaries are exceeded. You understand what that's saying, right? Saying that aliens are real. And that when you move about time and space, you're going to interact with other galactic beings. Again, CIA document. Look it up for yourself, CIA.gov. This is a document from January of 1987 from the desk of the CIA. Describes 3 different alien bases located in our galaxy. Number 1 is the Titan base. Number 2 being Mount Hayes in Alaska. We already talked about that one. 3 being South America / Africa. These are the session notes for what the base looked like on the inside, what the creatures looked like on the inside. You can see tall, high, dark, spacious. It was a stone building. It looked historical, but they were funny looking people. It looked like robots. Now this is what the remote viewer said it looked like from the outside. It was them looking up at this rocky natural mountain. I know I've showed you this map before, but I want to look at it again because can anyone help me figure out what these notes say? Because we know where Mount Hayes is. I have an idea where the Titan base is, but what about the South American / Africa base? Where is that at? And this is how the remote viewer describes looking through the extraterrestrial's eyes. When I looked through his eyes, he saw the galaxy. Y'all, I'm just reading to you straight from CIA.gov.
This is the ultimate motherfucking workbook. It's the Gateway Experience Intermediate Workbook. And I'm gonna go ahead and give you a heads up. They give you a restriction that if you don't know what you're doing, don't do this. You could cause harm. So learn more and then do it. But let's get into it. All right, off top, go ahead and pause to read it. These are your first and second affirmations that you need to say, believe, think, embody to begin your Gateway experience. And I'm gonna say it one more time. If you don't know what you're doing, don't fuck around with this. Now, baby, this is the ultimate breath work. We are breathing our energy in all the way from our toes, all the way up to our brain, all the way up to our consciousness, so that our energy and everything that we believe is swirling around in both the left and right part of our brain. And if you'll notice, there's a small bar right beneath all the energy. Yeah, that's your energy bar. That is how energized your Gateway experience is going to be. Now, this is going to be when you're exhaling all of your used up energy, pushing it all the way out down through your toes, just where you brought it in from. Now, look at all the fucking ways you can use the Gateway process throughout your daily waking life. It says for use in your physical waking life. Don't worry, I'm going to move so you can see the bottom. Y'all, the T on CIA.gov is hotter than ever. Caught them bitches in a lie. Ooh, I got them bitches. Let me show you.
Dr. Rothmiller requested from the CIA any documents pertaining to the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, the body of Jesus Christ, and the man known as Jesus Christ, right? They wrote back saying, regarding all of this, we ain't got it. Not in our hands. But they lied. And let me show you why. I have proof they lied. Right motherfucking here. Training target 0209 is the Ark of the Covenant, and this happened back in 1988. So in 2013, they were like, nah, pimp, we ain't got it. Yes, y'all fucking did. Really, the CIA lying really isn't that shocking, but what is shocking is that they were looking for the Ark of the Covenant, and they found it. It says right here, viewer 0 number 32 attained excellent sight contact, doing very well. And then let me show you some of the notes. Most of the notes kind of look like this. They're just little scribble scrabbles, but I'll give you a second to pause if you want to read that, and then I'll show you another one. So yeah, they all look just like this. They all are just scribble scrabbles of what they saw. And now to me, this is the most interesting part, because in the images of the Ark of the Covenant of what it's supposed to look like, the way it's described, that's on there. If they know where the Ark of the Covenant is, what else do they know? And what else are they lying about?